Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumedh Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I want to speak about how your mind sometimes becomes like a broken record. It becomes this junkyard, this storage system. And if you understand different emotions, you'll start to understand a lot about why we get into fight, anger, or flight, fear. And in between those, there are a bunch of emotions that resonate at certain frequencies that have an emotional charge to them. Let's look at an example, a particular example. Let's say that as a child you were bit by a dog. How does your mind process that? Your mind clumps everything together associated with that traumatic event as quote-unquote bad or negative. So it has a negative charge. But not only is the incident of you getting bit by the dog a negative charge, it's how the sky was blue that day, the grass was green that day. It was the fact that your mother didn't come to help you and she screamed. Your mother's scream, you can still hear that. It's the fact that the dog left the imprint or the bite mark on your arm. So what are all the associations that you would have made if that were the traumatic event? Okay? Because it's not only just the bite. It's what you were wearing that day, right? It's the noises that you heard in the environment. It's all of those things, the symbols, the sensations, all connecting to that moment, which is why if you heard a siren on that day or if you heard a dog's bark later on, you would get triggered again. That would bring up certain memories and those charges would come back. Maybe you suppressed it over the years, but it would still activate that trigger. And also it could be activated in a way in your future, like a broken record, as I was saying, in terms of self-sabotaging behavior. How could that work? Well, your mom, you see her as the authority figure. She did not save you in that moment. So years later, 17 years later, you try and get a job and you feel this hatred against your boss and you feel this pulling away from authority. You become rebellious. I'll give you a very specific personal example. Now I'm getting very vulnerable here, but I'm telling you straight up, okay? As a child in India, I went to a school here called, and this woman, teacher, asked me, what's the color of an apple? She asked me, what's the color of an apple? And I simply asked her, do you mean the inside of the apple or the outside of the apple? And what she did is she took a scale and she hit me, okay? She started punishing me by smacking my wrists. Now, what did this tell me later on in my years? First of all, it told me that not to trust authority. Don't trust people who are teachers, right? Don't trust the educational system. What else did it teach me? It taught me don't trust women. Women will hurt you, right? She was a woman who was hitting me. Women are controlling. They're dominant. And so I would subconsciously attract much more women who were dominant. Maybe not at first, but that's what it would grow into. You see what I'm saying? You have to be very, very conscious about what has happened to you. And you have to process it to release the negative charge from it. Now, what was the positive thing about that event? It's difficult to look for it, I'll be honest, at first. But what I see is that moments gave me an ability to find my own education throughout time. Of course, I was a B grade student or whatever. I was an average student. I wasn't exceptional. But then when I went into my master's, I got my merit. And that comes from a lot of facilitation and pushing, and I passed my IB exams and pushed past it in a sense of being academically okay. But that also led me on my journey to personal growth, because if that event hadn't happened, I would have never gone on the trajectory to find my own education and go on my own growth. You see what I'm saying here? So every single moment of your past, when you feel like going into that victim story again, You're going to have to redesign it and ask yourself what actually happened in that moment. What was the facts? Was it legitimate? Is it realistic what has happened? You want to ask yourself certain questions that trigger and release this kind of charge that you have towards it. Maybe it's a charge of frustration that's on 10 right now. Now you have to take that charge of frustration and work through it and own it and get grateful about it and start to process through it. All right, this is the kinds of work that I do as a coach as well. All right, once you go through the Flow Zone Academy, we take you from mind to body to spirit, rendering, bringing it all together. And as we do that, it gives you a guideline. If you released all of those negative traumas, events, moments in your life that made you feel unworthy, that made you feel like you weren't good enough, whatever it made you feel, and that created limiting beliefs, and that created the storyline that you have now. You have to start to own your narrative again. If you guys are interested, my book is out. It's on Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description. 2 days ago, I had my book launch, and in that morning, I actually gave a speech to a high school psychology festival called Mindscape, HFS Mindscape. And yeah, there's more to come from here. From the 16th onwards, I'm going to be going to Delhi, so I'll be shooting videos from there. Think about this. Think about this concept of how your mind loves to clump things together and really start to understand and take power over your mind. You have to become bulletproof. You're going to have to make your mind come from that neutrality. You see, wisdom is speeding up of the understanding of these two dimensions of negative and positive. It's coming from the middle path or the neutrality or the wu-wei. It's an ability to sit in that vantage point where you're looking at both good and bad and you're the observer. When you come back to that observer state, you can tap into that no-minder flow. If you're constantly fluctuating and you have all these emotional charges, you see, a negative charge can very easily become a positive charge. That's why all these positive people who are only positive, something bad happens to them, it crushes that reality, and then they fling to the negative side, right? It's like if you are so like seeing all the positive in your relationship, one bad thing happens, that person cheats on you, it's like boom, it flips to the other side, right? That positive charge, you see, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed, my friends. So you want to come back to that neutrality. The good and the bad is there. You are the vantage point. In the video game, if you have the joystick, you are the one behind the joystick. You're not the player in the game. So you have to get back to that vantage point, that observer principle, to be able to tap into that flow state again, all right? Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. See you next time.